The following is a presentation of RoseNet TV, an internet TV channel for the borough of Madison, New Jersey.
For our event this morning, hope everybody survived through that wind yesterday. My name's Mariah Webb, and I welcome all of you on behalf of the FDU libraries and also on behalf of Professor Peter Woolley and the Public Mind. Dr. Woolley has lined up quite an impressive list of speakers for these events on Fridays. I hope that all of you will come back next Friday and join us for Bob Engel and Sandy McClure, who are investigative journalists and the authors of the best-selling book on corruption in New Jersey, The Soprano State. That ought to be very interesting. I also, before I introduce our speaker, want to thank Colleen DiGregorio. She works here at the library, but she has worked with Peter Woolley to arrange these events, to get the food, get the setup, and et cetera. So thank you so much, Colleen. She's back there. Okay, putting taxpayers first is not only the topic for this morning's Public Mind seminar, it is also the title of our guest speaker's recent book, which is, by the way, for sale on Amazon.com. Steve Lonegan, conservative critic and candidate for the Republican nomination for governor, describes himself as New Jersey's #1 advocate for the overtaxed citizen. Defeating the incumbent Democratic mayor in Bogota in 1995, Lonegan was reelected twice by double-digit margins, and that's in Democratic territory, and kept the Republican Council in control for 11 straight elections. As New Jersey State Director of Americans for Prosperity, he organized taxpayer action seminars in towns around New Jersey, attacking liberal economic and regulatory politics. Another participant in the Public Mind not too long ago was Paul Mulshine, and he said in the Star-Ledger that, quote, Lonegan single-handedly ignited the biggest taxpayer revolt since the Florio years, end quote, by defeating 2 ballot questions in 2007. So without further ado, because I know that Steve Lonegan will tell us all about his activism here in the state and maybe something about his new book, I welcome Steve Lonegan.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Well, it's a pleasure to be here almost 30 years after getting my master's degree from Fairleigh Dickinson. I'm not sure where to start. We're going to cover an awful lot of territory in the next half hour or so. So let's start really from the beginning. I'm running for governor of the state of New Jersey. And the first question you should ask anyone who's running for office is, why are you running? And that's often a very difficult question for a lot of candidates. You'll hear, well, I want to give back to the community. That's probably one of the most common statements, which was kind of vague. Give back what, if you look at what politicians do for us. But it's taken me quite some time to really distill that down through my experience and disappointments and challenges as a mayor, as an elected official, as a mayor, as a business owner, as a family man, in dealing with government and dealing with policies. So I've reduced it to a simple statement. I'm running to be governor of the state of New Jersey to relieve every taxpayer of the burden of big government and its high taxes so that each and every one of us can rise to our best possible potential. Now, that is actually the foundation of the American dream. That's exactly what America was built on. The right to rise to your best possible potential, free of the shackles of big government, so that each and every one of us can rise to their best possible potential, and in doing so, elevate everyone around them. When an individual achieves great success, they inevitably will elevate everyone around them, whether it's through inventing a light bulb, or Microsoft Office, or perhaps starting a business and creating jobs, or being a successful family person and volunteer in your community. Success breeds prosperity. That's what America is about. And so many millions of people came here from around the world to seek that opportunity, to be free of the shackles of big government, of tyranny, of dictatorship, of kings and queens and of rulers in order to achieve their best potential. It's capitalism at the core of all this. It's free markets, it's individuality, it's everything, by the way, that in today's current political environment is under all-out attack. We're seeing it now, coming out of the Barack Obama administration, and some of those who are now pushing for expanded big government, expanded entitlement programs, expanded regulations, expanded infringement on individual freedom, all of these things that converge upon the ability of the individual to rise to their best possible potential. And that has actually taken quite some time for me to fully digest its real implications, and perhaps even for those sitting here today listening to what I'm talking about. But if you go back to, the foundation of our nation, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, amongst them are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Those opening words to our Declaration of Independence were considered by many to be the most important words ever written in the English language, because with them they launched the freest, most prosperous nation the world has ever seen. But they also did something else quite profound. They shook the thrones of those European rulers and kings and queens to their very foundation, because for the first time in the history of mankind, what the founders of this nation said, what Thomas Jefferson wrote, was that each and every one of you sitting here today is endowed with certain unalienable rights, and endowed with those rights by a power greater than any on earth, by God. And when you make that statement, that it's each individual is endowed by a Creator more powerful than any on earth, you're saying that no power on earth can take those rights away. That immediately rendered those kings, those queens, and those rulers to obsolescence. You see, up until that point in history, they believed that they had those rights. When you see a picture of a king holding up his emperor, or that Asian emperor holding that orb, that was a symbol of their connection to heaven. They believed they had our rights, and they would decide what rights we would be given. They would divvy out the right to be married, how we would be taxed, whether or not we could own property free of the will of government and free of the abuse of eminent domain. No, but when you say, no, you don't have those rights, we the people have those rights. And we the people lend the right to govern to those who govern us. And it is incumbent upon us as citizens, when those who we endow the right to govern us become reckless and irresponsible, to do what we have to do, and that is to take back control of that government. And when the founders first proclaimed this great vision, these people around the world, they said, wait, this is impossible. Who are these Americans to think that they have the ability to govern themselves? They need a king or a queen or a ruler to rule over them. They can't possibly make their own decisions without someone to tell them what to do or how to do it, to be left to their own devices. They called it the Great American Experiment. And, well, the experiment did work. And more freedom and more prosperity rolled across this nation from sea to shining sea like a thunderstorm across a prairie, delivering more freedom to more people than the world has ever seen. And that is what America is about. And that, in my mind, is what, in governing, we should always put at the very forefront of our commitment. I became involved in government in the 1990s. Actually, I became involved in politics in college in the 1970s when I had the opportunity to get involved in a campaign for a guy named Ronald Reagan. And then after being a volunteer for some time, I got out of college like many people do, and I started my own business, which I built here in the state of New Jersey, which would take the next 15 years. I didn't get really re-involved in government until the mid-1990s. After building a successful business in New Jersey in the kitchen cabinet manufacturing and retail business, my town of Bogota, which is, it's right between Hackensack and Teaneck, it's the town I was born in. It's a blue-collar town. Definitely, I would call it a blue-collar working town, 2-to-1 Democrat to Republican. Good quality, hard-working people like anywhere else. But it was doing pretty badly. See, I had built a successful business. I had made money and built my family, but my town was in pretty bad shape. In 1994, the New York Times reported that Bogota was one of 2 towns in northeastern New Jersey that had declining property values. It was Bogota and Patterson. We had a record number of homes for sale. We had the highest property tax rate in the county. And I decided that I would run for office and do something about it.